the great benefits you have of having me is I always like doing a quick recap. Seeing if there, one second, there we go. Doing a quick recap and seeing if there are any questions you all had as it relates to anything that impacted you or questions that you might have from the last presentation. Anything that stood out to you or any questions you have before we dive in? Go ahead. Yep. You don't need the coffee, right? So you're like, because I'm black coffee. I'm joking, mess with you. All right, let's go. I do diversity too, don't mess with me. All right, let's go. I want coffee in the morning. Okay, sorry. All right, go ahead.
I was going to just go off that, just the energy you have.
Yeah.
So I think bringing that to the workplace is very important, and just to life in general. To have a positive outlook. It's very optimistic, going and see the many, the little, happiness and the idiosyncrasies of life. That's good. That's a really good, energy that you gave.
That's awesome. Positivity, awesome. Anybody else? Anything that stood out to you from the session? And I go here and then here. Right.
I liked that a lot of this you can use in the workplace, like management-wise, not
Right.
just necessarily
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that part up. The comment was that I can bring a lot of that stuff to, you can bring a lot of what I shared into the workplace. And part of it is because that's what I wrote the book for. Your Why Matters Now was created for working professionals, but then like college is like, hey, we think this would be great for our students, right? And so I was like, okay, cool, right? So that it was initially designed, so you'll see even in, well, you won't see, but in my book, it's a lot of the examples are workplace examples. So that's a really good point. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if you read it, but it's like don't find meaning in your work, like bring meaning to your work.
Yes.
I thought that was really impactful.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be exactly where you want, right when you want to be.
Yeah.
So it's like getting the most out of it.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. You tell a common theme. I love what you all say, right? But just that, from a time perspective, I don't have time to share the research, but I'll break down the research on that because I'm a big researcher, is that there was actually a study done on hospital cleaners, right? Just to kind of prove this. And in the study, what they found was that there was two different groups of hospital cleaners. There's one group of hospital cleaners that they came to the hospital, they cleaned the hospital, and then they went home, left the hospital. It makes sense because they were hospital cleaners, right? But there's another group who they would engage with the family members and say, is there anything that we can do for you, right? That they would talk to the nurses and find out the best time for them to come into the class, not the classroom, but into the room. And they saw a general difference between these two different groups of hospital cleaners. Now, they were both doing the exact same work. Sometimes they had the same supervisor, but what was the difference? The difference was is that one brought meaning with them and the other was trying to find meaning, right? And I think, I may, depending on if we have time today, I'll show you all a video of Joseph. Actually, you know what? Let's off the cuff. All right, I didn't plan on showing this video, but I'm going to show you all the video anyway because Joseph is an amazing dude that I met at the Charlotte airport. Now, the stuff I tell y'all about, some people think I just talk about it and I actually don't live it out, right? Because that's the perception. People are like, oh yeah, you just talk about it. But I want to show you Joseph because Joseph is a really cool dude. As I'm pulling up Joseph, this is, just in case you didn't know, this is Legendary Leadership. And I'll show you Joseph, and then we'll dive right into it. Force quit the photos. There we go. All right. 4 traits of high-impact leaders. Okay, I'll see anything over there. Okay. Here, let's see if I can play Joseph. All right. And I was walking out Charlotte Airport, and this dude had a smile on his face, and I saw like me putting a little trash bag together, but like this dude had so much power. So Joseph, I just wanted to ask you, like, what makes you do your job differently than I see a whole bunch of people do their jobs?
Honestly, I take pride in what I do. I thank the Lord for my job, so my thing to tell you what that is, I, love what I do, so I'm going to do it to my best ability. So that's why I'm always in a good mood. I'm always greeting people because I love them.
One second, I'm going to see if I can play it from over here so it can be better. Sorry. Take it off of here. Sorry for the people on the satellite. They're recording back there, just in case you didn't know that. Let's see if it logs up. Okay, see Joseph. Oh, look at my pictures. I see y'all. Like, what picture is that? Is your shirt off, Justin? Is that your shirt off? Yes, it is, by the way. Let's see if it pulls up. Oh, there we go. All right, let's see if it works this time.
I just met Joseph, and I was walking out Charlotte Airport, and this dude had a smile on his face, and I saw like you putting a trash bag together, but like this dude had so much power. So Joseph, I just wanted to ask you, like, what makes you do your job differently than I see a whole bunch of people do their jobs?
Honestly, I take pride in what I do. I thank the Lord for my job, so my thing I tell you that is, I, love what I do, so I'm gonna do it to my best ability. So that's why I'm always in a good mood. I'm always greeting people because I love what I do,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And like you mentioned something about like the Pacific Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell me that, 'cause I never heard that before.
In regards of the amount of trash that they have in the Pacific Ocean, it's the size of the state of Texas. So I have trash and I also have recycle bins, so to distinguish the two. I take it downstairs, separated, and what I'm trying to do is, keep the airport clean, a better environment than what it is, and, cut down on the trash usage as well.
Bruh, when I tell you, you make me smile, I make you smile. Thank you for your hard work, brother. I really do appreciate this, man. Thank you, dude. Appreciate that, dude, man. This dude right here, he is awesome. Dude is awesome. We need more Josephs in the world. All right, bye-bye.
Isn't he amazing, dude? You know what I'm saying? Like, Joseph was like, ah! And so I called the CEO, and I called to report on him, how amazing he was, and let the company know. And that's another thing that we need to think about, how do we do a little different, is a lot of times we only call or follow up on things that are negative, but like when things go well, we need to reach out and actually fill out that feedback form that people provide. So anyway, but bringing that up was just like that connection of like, he brings meaning to his work in a normal place where people would be like, oh, who cares? I'm just doing trash. But I try my best to go out my way to really let them know how valuable and awesome they are. So anyway, but that's a good point. So let's dive in. What we're going to do, you can see my family, sorry. Yeah, oh, look at them holding the book. Oh, yay. Okay, sorry. I'll just start looking at my own pictures, and so y'all be wondering what's happening in life. All right, so cool, awesome. So what we're going to do, I'm going to try to go through this from a high-level perspective. We'll dive in deep where we need to, but I want to leave some time at the end for questions so that we can dive in and maybe more specific questions that you have. So a little bit about my background with this. So yes, not only was I a student leader, but I used to actually, right out of college, I worked as a store manager for this little-known French store named Target. And one of the things that, Target for those who didn't get it, and one of the things that I got a chance to lead a team of 50 people. Had some really cool internships where I worked for Coca-Cola, Pfizer, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and got opportunity in all those to have aspects of leadership role. I did my MBA focused on leadership and organizational change, and did more grad work on human resource development at George Washington University. So like a lot of school and a lot of experience. And now I'm a former radio host. I had a producing team, but then also now I have a small team that works with me with a new company I started called Work Meaningful, just helping organizations and places to what I call work like they mean it and challenging leaders to lead like they mean it. So let's dive in a little bit to this. So we dive into the four traits of high impact leaders. There's 4 ideas, 4 traits that I want to share with you that I found during my MBA time to be what separated average leaders from those who are super successful. Similar process. This stuff can be great for you within your leadership and your leadership roles in organizations, but it also can be great in your careers. Because I do the same thing. Like I just did this for, what group was that? North Carolina Association of CPAs. And so I did not only your Why Matters Now as a keynote, but then I did a breakout of the 4 traits of high impact leaders for these professionals who've been in their careers for a long time. So So let's dive in. So what's the first trait, all right? It's the humility trait. And that we haven't begun to lead until we realize it's not about us. That's the first foundation. And some of you are like, what do you mean, Justin? Like, I thought leadership from what we see is like, hey, go get my coffee. Shaken, not stirred, right? And that's the perception sometimes we have of what leadership looks like. But that first true trait is the humility trait, because it allows us to challenge this notion that we don't have to be Superwoman or Superman here. Like, we're here like, dun, 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 I'm here to save the day. Like, no, you're not, right? You're here to lead others towards an organizational value or goal. But oftentimes when we step into leadership, we feel like we have to be the person that has all the answers. And truth be told, that's not real leadership, right? Real leadership realizes that we're a part of the answer, but we need other people. And so when you realize it's not about you, is the beginning of beginning to lead. Not only that, but great leaders, humble leaders, can admit they make mistakes. So what I want you to do with the person next to you, I want you to say to them, I make mistakes. Yeah, right? Right. Now, some of us like, you make a whole lot of mistakes, right? But isn't it true? Like, every single one of us makes mistakes, right? We do. Let me give you a great example. Now, what's your name? Madeline. So, fictitious story. Imagine Madeline and I, we were dating, right? And one of the things is I came to Madeline's room, and I'm super excited to see Madeline. And Madeline's like, Justin, like, I want to go to the library and study today. So I'm cool. I'm like, I like a library too. Let's go to the library. She's like, no, Justin, I want to go alone. So she goes to the library, and I just so happen to go too. And Madeline's appearing through the stacks of the library. And Madeline's sitting next to Bobby, laughing all his corny jokes, rubbing his hairy knuckles. I see what's happening here. So some time passes by, and Madeline finally comes back from the library. So I'm like, Madeline, so how was the library?
Good.
I'm sure it was. Do you mind sharing what you happen to study? You went for it, right? Some people like biology, but you're like, yeah, hairy knuckles, right? No, now I probably would have been sad and mad, but if I never told her that I saw her with Bobby, every single time that she says she's going to the library, what am I thinking about? She's with Bobby, right? Now, I wish you would have just been open and honest and say, hey, Justin, I went and made a mistake, or I want to break up with you. I probably would have cried one small tear. But I would have trusted her because she told me what she did. And that's, my friends, is our power, is that people that we're leading, they know when we're doing great and when we suck, right? They're talking about it, right? And when we make mistakes, what's the powerful thing behind this is that people actually trust us more when we can admit our mistakes. Now, let me give you the balance of this, right? This isn't one of those things where you come into a meeting like, hey, everybody, I'm a failure at life. See that trash on the ground? Didn't pick it up. Yay. Like, no, like, there's no balance to it. But there are opportunities where maybe you went in the wrong direction, or maybe you didn't choose the other person's idea, that you can say, hey, you know what? That would have probably been the best thing. And people actually trust us more when we're able to do that, right? But not only that, in terms of making mistakes and admitting those, but we have to create an environment where people feel open and honest to share how they really feel, right? I'll give you a great example of what happens. Now, what's your name?
Marcy.
Marcy, and your name? Karen. Okay. So imagine Marcy's leading an organization. I'm like, Marcy, woo! Thank you so much for leading us. You are amazing. I mean, you are killing it. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. Thank you so much, Marcy. You are the best. Karen, I can't stand Marcy. Marcy acts like she knows it all just because she has glasses, and just because she thinks she's smart. She doesn't even utilize us. She doesn't even care about, you know what? I can't stand. Next year, I'm running against her. Oh, Marcy! Yes, thank you so much. I'll be your campaign manager. Yeah. And this is what's happening, right? People are talking about us. The question is, are we humble enough to listen and to hear? Because what ends up happening is if people don't feel that they can actually talk to us, they'll talk about us. And we have to create an environment where people can feel free to share how they really feel. And one practical way to do that is a tool that we use in consulting called a plus delta. Right? And in plus delta, it asks two simple questions. Plus, what am I doing well as a leader? Or delta, what do I need to change or improve? Now, which one do you think most people like the most? The plus. Why? Feels good, right? We love people telling us how great we are, don't we? But we hate hearing how much we suck, right? We're like, ah. But this is one of the best, most transformative things, because if we don't know what to change or improve, how will we ever grow? And this is why it's very powerful, whether you do it on a monthly or quarterly basis. I think the least you should do it is quarterly. But asking the question, as a leader, what am I doing well, and what should I change or improve? Now, when you ask this question, your only response are two answers, two statements, two words. Thank you. That's it. What I often see people do when they ask powerful questions like this, what do you think they do? When somebody gives them things that they need to change or improve, how do you think most people respond? Yes. They start justifying. It was really Kyle's fault. Kyle, if only Kyle didn't have that dimple, man. I'm just telling you, right? Like, I mean, this is what ends up happening is that we start hearing people justify and say, if only I had this. And what that is doing to people, that's telling them, you don't really want to hear our feedback. You went to a workshop and learned how to do this. But you don't genuinely want it. Because even if it was 99% someone else's fault, as leaders, we take full responsibility. Because that's what we do with leadership. That's what humble leaders begin to do, right? So not only this, but we realize in our humility that it's not just about us, that we're leading people, right? So the first factor is the humility factor, right? This is the biggest trait, the best, the most foundational trait of what it looks like to have long lasting. So let me give you this. You don't have to have humility to be a leader, but you're not going to be a leader long without it. Because at some point, people realize you really don't care about them. This is about you, right? So the first thing is humility. That's the first trait. The second trait is the empowerment trait, right? And an empowerment trait is focused on seeking to be more interested than interesting to other people, right? How can we be more interested than interesting? Right? Now, one of the things that I want to hear from you all is by a round of applause. How many of you all in your organizations want this to be the best year ever? A round of applause. That's good. Because that's wrong, right? If this is the best year ever, what's next year going to be? No, you can't make up where the better is, right? like I didn't say the best year so far. I said the best year ever, right? And truth be told, we want it to be the best year ever. We want to come back and people say, when you were on campus, it felt like the sun always kissed the sidewalk. It felt like the sledding was perfect down this little hallway. It felt like the butterflies always cocooned right at the time of finals. When you were here. And we want that. We want to feel like when I was here, this was awesome, right? And I was that way. I was a president of the School of Business Student Action Committee or Student Leadership Committee. That meant that I was president of all the other School of Business presidents, accounting, marketing, human resources. And y'all, during my tenure, we raised more money than ever before. We started a golf tournament. I memean, we did a lot of things. We brought in more corporate donors and sponsors. And I remember coming back, and everybody was like, Justin, oh, you're back. It's so good to see you. I was like, yes. Yeah. I was like, so how's the organization doing? And they were like, oh, it doesn't exist anymore. And my first reaction was, see, I told you they couldn't do it without me, right? But then I realized something, that's not real leadership. Real leadership makes sure that next year is better, right? So if your organization hasn't either grown in quality or quantity under you, that's not real leadership, right? That's simply management. You just managed what was already there. Real leadership makes sure that next year is better. And our challenge is that we have to ask questions of how do we do this? How do we actually do this? So I'll illustrate it this way. Now, what's your name? Dylan. Can everybody give Dylan a round of applause for me real quick? Okay. So, Dylan, what I need you to do is I need you to come up to the front. I need you to share one tip about leadership that you think every single one of us should know. All right, give Dylan one more round of applause as he goes up to the front. All right, go ahead, Dylan. All right.
Trying to think of a good one. I guess one tip I have about leadership is communication. I'm in an RSO, and sometimes we don't always communicate with each other, and that leads to a lot of discrepancies and misunderstandings. So I would recommend to communicate with everyone in your board and your community.
Good. All right, good. All right. I think I can go home. Have a good day, y'all. All right. Good job, brother. Now, what in the world just happened? What just happened? Yes, I love when people read the screen, right? Right? You empowered him. All right. But yes. And so, Dylan, I have a question for you. When I asked you to come up here and share your one tip of leadership, honestly, how did it feel? Yeah, a little nerve-wracking. I wasn't expecting it. But what I love about this is that's how 99% of people feel. But isn't it better that Dylan's nervous while I'm still here? Isn't it better that he's nervous while I'm still here? Often what I find, I call it the 2-foot syndrome, especially for leaders who are getting ready to leave, transition, or graduate, right? There's one foot is like, I love our organization, our RSO is amazing, it's awesome. The other foot is, I need a job, right? One foot is the values and organizational things that we do, the mission is so awesome, but the other foot is, I don't want to move back home with mom and dad, right? It's like there's this 2-foot syndrome that this other foot normally wins. And so it's better that as soon as you get into place, that you start figuring out how other people can take your place, even before you've left. But normally people wait until they're gone to start figuring out, if at all, how do I help other people take their place? Now, we see this happen a lot more in organizations, especially collegiate organizations. It's almost like the little old school stock market where it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we're starting to figure it out. Oh, I got a great leadership in, and then new leadership. Wait a minute, just figuring it out. Oh, I got great new leadership. And it's almost this starting back over every single time where we can begin to, oh, okay, boom, build the foundation. And so as we think through this, it's asking things like, how do we get other people to take our place? One of those things is effective succession planning. Right? Now, what's a succession plan? Y'all know what it is. I just want to say it. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, Justin. What's a succession plan? Succession. Who's going to take over? Absolutely, 100%. It's who's going to take over? How are they going to take over? And with effective succession planning, I have a whole little one-pager on it that if you want that later, let me know and I can figure out a way to send it to you. But one-pager on succession planning is just, if you just ask 3 questions. What did you wish you knew day one? Doing a plus delta on each of your events that you did. And 3, of who are the people that person definitely needs to know, right? So what did you wish you knew day one? The plus delta on all the events that you did, and who are the people that people should know when they step into the role. That allows you to more effectively be able to lead and give people an opportunity to start higher than where you started. That's the power that we have when we seek to be more interested and learn about other people, and we're empowering them to begin to take our place, right? So the first trait is the humility trait. The second is the empowerment trait. And the third, well, goes a little something like this.
Jim's like Big Bird. He is tall and yellow and very nice, but would I put him in charge? No, I don't think so. Big Bird doesn't make the tough decisions. If I was going to put someone in charge, would put Bert in charge, or I would put one of the real grown-ups in charge, like Maria or Gordon, maybe.
Well, Michael, you're interrupting.
You're kidding me! God! You say rain on a silent but deadly, and then you expect me not to make farting noises with my mouth? What is this?
Sit down.
You know what? We're not going to die of, we're going to die of boredom. Right? And if I had a gun with 2 bullets, and I was in a room with Hitler, Bin Laden, and Toby, I would shoot Toby twice. Okay, all right.
Really funny, and you went too far.
I want to go home. Well, you don't even have anybody to go home to, Toby. Hey, Toby. Hey, you know what? I have an idea. Why don't you leave right now? Why don't you walk away from the room, okay?
Coming from below, we have asbestos in the ceilings. These are silent killers.
You are the silent killer. Go back to the annex.
Hey, Jim.
Not now, Toby, my God. Get the hell out of here, idiot. Can I just say that of all the idiots, in all the idiot villages, in all the idiot worlds, you stand alone, my friend. No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 Why are you the way that you are. Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be. I tried to talk to Toby and be his friend, but that is like trying to be friends with an evil snail.
How about a round of applause? How many old Office fans do we have in the room? We have a couple? Okay. So my wife and I are avid lovers of The Office. We've seen probably almost every episode at least 10 times. And pretty much this next thing is don't be like Michael Scott, right? But it's in what I call the relational trait, that we should be relational. We should be relational. Now, part of being relational with each other and understanding is asking questions and engaging people, right, in relational components, right? And when you're relational, you focus on giving more to others than you get from them. How do we give more to other people than we get from them, right? And how do we learn things about people that to be able to help, right? And so there's a couple of practical things that I think are in there and being relational that will help us as we engage. One of those things is how do we help encourage their risk-taking? What are some of the things that we can practically do? So I had a great manager. I had an internship with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, a guy named Brian Peck, amazing guy. When I first came in, he was like, Justin, I want you to fail. Now, can you imagine your manager saying that to you, right? I want you to fail. But what he was saying is I want you to make smart failures because, and I believe this quote to be so true, that if we never fail, then we're not trying hard enough. And many people, they play it safe so that they don't have to try, so they don't fail, right? Because we've created this cocoon, this culture, where we're afraid of risk-taking, we're afraid of saying the wrong thing. I see it all the time, right? When I used to be in class, like I was a person, I was always raising my hand and saying the wrong thing, but I said it with confidence. Have you ever met somebody that says the wrong thing with confidence? Like the sky is purple. Everybody's like, wait a minute, it looks blue, but like maybe it is purple. Like, because, but this encouraging of risk-taking, of being able to say the wrong thing. But in classes now, if people don't know they know the answer 110%, they're like, and then, you know what, then they do this one of the things, right? You may say like, what's 1 + 1? Everybody's looking around like, 2. And then when the professor says, oh yeah, it's 2, he's like, oh, I said it. We wait till after the person has said it. But how do we encourage risk-taking, right? How do we encourage our members? Part of that is knowing who they are, being relational with them. That allows us to help them to connect the dots. Remember? Now, I don't know if this is old school, so many of y'all don't remember it, but this used to be the song called Connect the Dots, la, la, la. It's Pee Wee Herman, don't judge me. But one of the things about connecting the dots is what we find in organizational research is that people, not only in the corporate space, but also in organizations, that when you're able to help them connect the dots between what they do and how it helps the organizational mission, people are more likely to buy in. When they feel what they do matters, how it directly connects to this mission. Let me give you a great example of this. One of the LA Rams players, they went to the Super Bowl last year. What he did is he had 2 Super Bowl tickets that he gave to one of the custodial members and his son. And what he said to him is, I want you to know what you do every single day is just as much a part of this team to help me to perform the best I can perform. So you're also a part of this team. And what they found organizationally is that they would have given them Super Bowl tickets. Not the Super ticket, but Super Bowl rings if they won. So it's like, how do you help people to understand their specific role, even if it's not the normal sexy leadership role, that their role matters and how it actually helps the organization to accomplish their goals, right? So connecting the dots is important, right? And also, our meetings, right? For some strange reason, we feel like we have to have all these meetings. That's something that can be done in an email, right? And so I'm big in being relational, knowing your people. You have to know that like we're getting inundated with too many meetings, and what do? we have to sometimes, not in this big meeting space, but how do we have these one-on-ones? We go grab some coffee or go grab some tea or learning about people, because again, if the focus on how do I give more to others, we have to know what they need in these meetings, right? So, in being relational, how do we focus more on giving things to others and getting more? Right? What does that practically look like? Well, we have to know the two questions. Right? If we don't know these two questions, I question us on how effectively we're leading. These are the two questions. Question number one is, why did you join our organization in the first place? Why? Question number two is, what does success look like to you? What does success look like to you? Question number one, why did you join in the first place? That question is imperative because not everybody joins for the reason we join, to change the world one semester at a time. Like, no. Like, sometimes people join because they want to build a resume. Some people join because they wanted to get the new T-shirt. Some people join because they're like, I don't have anything better to do. Like, you sound pretty convincing, so I'll join. But like, say you met somebody that they joined your organization because they want to meet people, but every single time you put them in the back counting tickets. Can't stand this organization. Man. Unfulfilled. And you had no idea why they were unfulfilled. It's because we didn't truly understand what was their reasoning, their motives for coming into the organization in the first place, to be able to help them to achieve that. But not only that, but what does success look like to them? At the end of their time in your RSO and your organization, what does success look like? Let me give you an example. So I used to be a radio show host. Kyle was one of my producers. And Kyle came in, he came in hot. I mean, Kyle came in, he was blazing. He was doing great work. I mean, I love what Kyle was doing as a producer. But then some months started to pass by, and Kyle stopped producing to the highest quality. He started showing up late to meetings, and sometimes just missing meetings altogether. Right? Now, our normal reaction as leaders is, look at, he's just lazy, right? But I try my best to take responsibility, what great leaders should do. There's many times where I'm not a great leader, but this was one time where I was able to execute this. And I said, Kyle, it's like, look, why'd you join the radio show? Kyle was like, well, I want to make a difference. I love what you all are doing in the community and a lot of the issues that you're talking about. I was like, cool, we're on target there. I said, what does success look like to you, Kyle? And he said, well, actually, Justin, I want to host my own show one day. And my first internal reaction is not on my show, right? But like something kicked in. It's like, how do I focus on giving more to Kyle than getting from him? And so I knew what Kyle's passion was because I knew Kyle. We had time to talk in relationship. And Kyle loved the news. He loved politics specifically. So what we decided to do is we created a show every quarter, ran once every 3 months, called Politics Today with Kyle on my air slot time. Right? Now, it was helpful for me in many ways because it gave me a break. But it was also great because Kyle felt like I cared about him, that I was willing to help improve him and what he hoped to accomplish and not just what I could get from him. Now, I loved it because what I started to see is Kyle's productivity increased. He started producing at the levels that he had before and all these things because I showed him that I cared about him. So in being relational, what do those that you lead, what do they most desire? What are they most passionate about? Right? Say some of them want to be a lawyer, right? And it may have nothing to do with your organization. And you may find an article on like the top 10 things you can do right now as a student to be a lawyer, right? And it's just showing them that you care allows people to be able to engage in a different way. But not only that, to be relational, but we have to catch people doing things right. Have you ever just met a negative person before? Right? You can be like, wow, she looks great today. And you're like, but the sun's going down in 10 hours, right? Like, I got an A on my test. They're like, you failed the last one, right? Like, man, run from those people. But oftentimes, we are those people. See, let me give you a great story. Now, I remember growing up, and I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I told you we grew up poor. But one of the things is, even in growing up poor, we had this really fancy dishwasher named Justin Jones Fosu. And one of the things about this dishwasher is that sometimes it didn't wash the dishes. So I remember one time, my mom came downstairs, she saw the dishes weren't done, and she did one of these numbers. Justin Peter Kofi Irabi Jones Fosu. And you know when your whole government is called, that you're in real trouble, right? It's almost like the person came over the intercom, like, can you please send Peter to the principal's office? And how did the whole class respond? Right? And Peter walked real slow, like, I don't know what happened, right? But I remember I came downstairs, and she was like, Justin, when you don't wash the dishes, you invite bugs. And when you invite bugs, you invite roaches. And when you invite roaches, rodents come. And when rodents come, the world's coming to an end, right? And so she would spend 10 minutes on all the things that I didn't do, right? And so I was committed to come downstairs and changing that perspective. So I came downstairs early once. I washed the dishes, dried them, even put them away. And we had at our house that we were renting, you can get into the kitchen from down the steps and go right into the kitchen, or you can come in from the living room. So I heard my mom come down the steps. I magically appeared at the same time, like. And she was like, Justin, you wash the dishes. Good job. When I didn't wash the dishes, it was 10 minutes of bugs, roaches, rodents, the world's coming to an end. But when I did, it was simply just, good job. And my friends, I'm afraid we operate in the same paradigm. We can spend so much time on the things that people do wrong that we forget to celebrate the things that people do right. Right? And so oftentimes, even in organizations, we can spend so much time on energy on the things that we do wrong. But what the research shows, and we know this, positive reinforcement are better predictors of repeat behavior. So what does it look like for us to, as I talked earlier, was to start our meetings? And every meeting I start off, I have what's called a moment of appreciation, where we just celebrate and ask for people to bring up cases, specific things that people have done that have made an impact on our organization, on us. That's a better predictor of behavior than telling people, oh, you did that wrong. Oh, you got that. We got to get this right. Now, we still have to address things that went wrong, but how much effort and energy do we celebrate things that go right? Unrelated statement. I remember I met this one gentleman who's a principal, and one of the things that he created is he said, in my office, I will only use my office for praising good things. So when you had to go to the principal's office, he changed the paradigm. Is that it was only for praising people in the principal's office. He would critique and do constructive feedback in other places, but his office was considered a place of praise. Right? So how do we do this? How do we catch people doing things right? Right? And ultimately, with our praise, how are we being careful? And the reason I say this is some people go to the opposite extreme, and we say, oh, we need to catch people doing things right. So when people come in, they're like, hey, I want to thank Billy for walking in the door today. Everybody give Billy a round of applause, right? No. Like what the research shows is that's not just you just praise people, but that people actually desire to be praised for things that are specific, that made an actual impact, and not just something because you went somewhere and learned that positive reinforcement was important, right? What specific did that person do? So when you tell somebody, hey, I just want to thank you, why are you thanking them? For what specific reason, and how did it impact either you or the organization as a whole? That's how we praise. We just don't praise because what people do is they start seeing through it and they feel that it's disingenuous. So when you can praise in a specific manner and tell them what they exactly did and how the impact it had, that's good praise. That's when we're being relational. And some of my consulting work, y'all, I sometimes go into organizations and I ask the question of what's been a significant time when you felt respected or valued? And many times I get somebody that says when their leader wrote them a handwritten thank you note, it could have been 8 years before. But that's the thing that they remember, not the promotion, not the bonus, but that handwritten thank you note that specified the impact that they had. We do that so little that unfortunately that stands out to people, right? So how are you going to be relational to focus on giving more? What are practical things you can do for those that you lead to give more to them than you expect from them. People run through walls for people that they feel care about them. And last but not least is, how do we be optimistic? Right? It's the optimistic trait. That's not just about being positive, like all this stuff that's happening right now in our society, a positive psychology. Just be happy. Like, some stuff sucks, y'all. Like, just be real, right? It's not always being happy. Some stuff just sucks. But how do we take positive actions, even in the midst of things that suck and that are hard and are challenging, right? And a couple of quick things as well. One is this. I love this. 1968 study. Rosenthal of Jacobson. Powerful study. What they did is that they looked at a group of teachers, right? And they gave this group of teachers a list of their most gifted students in their classroom. Most gifted students. So at the end of the year, as can be said, the students who were on the list performed the best. Performed the best. Makes sense, right? Except for that list was chosen at random. They didn't know who the most gifted students were. They just chose it at random. What they found was that the teachers, that because these students were on the list, if they weren't performing up to standard, what they would do is they would say, what do I need to do? How do I change my effort, my approach to get the best out of my people, out of my students? What do I need to do to get the best? And then when it got to the students, they would come to them and say, if they weren't giving the best effort, like, you could do better than this. This is not who you are. Like, you need to challenge your effort. But when it came to the students who weren't on the list that weren't performing to standard, they said, unconsciously or consciously, it wasn't their effort, it was their ability. They can't do it. So they didn't spend as much time helping them to challenge that paradigm. Students who were on the list, they charged it to their effort. Students who weren't on the list, they charged it to their ability. So that what they found was what you think about your people will most likely come true. What you think about them. If you think they're lazy, you're not going to give them opportunities to challenge their laziness. You're going to only do things that are super simple or easy if you give them anything at all, right? If you think that they're a burden, you're going to disengage from them consciously or unconsciously. What you think about your people will probably come true. So how do we see the best in our people? What are some things that we can do to be able to practically see that? One of those things is just realizing that all of us, we have bad moments, we have bad days, and that we have to challenge ourselves to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? That this could be just a bad moment. This doesn't define who they are as a person, even if they messed up or screwed up or didn't show up the ways that we want them to. My emphasis on me as a leader is I ask the question, like, even if they're not performing, my first question is not, why are you not performing? My first question as a leader is, hey, James, I noticed I haven't seen you perform to the high quality that the position requires, that I know you can do. What am I doing wrong as a leader? That you're not performing to this level. What do I need to change or improve? Because I know you're better than this. That is the approach we take. Because other approaches, people's walls come up immediately. They get really defensive. This approach, and I mean, you should be genuine with it. I really do think, like, what am I doing wrong? What should I be doing more of? What should I change? Because as a leader, it's my responsibility to get the best out of my people. So how do I do that? So I have to ask those questions. What am I doing? Right? And last but not least, we won't go over this through time. I encourage you all to Google and check out a model, one of the best leadership models I've seen. It's called Situational Leadership 2 by Ken Blanchard. And SL2, he has a Situational Leadership 1, it's not as good. Situational Leadership 2 is much better. And it pretty much says that one size fits all does not work for leadership. It doesn't. Is that when people start, what we have is that we have people who are D1s, right? And so in D1s, one of the things about D1s is that we call them enthusiastic beginner phase. Also ignorance on fire, right? Is that they need high direction but low support, right? Because they're excited about the new position or new task, but they have no idea what they're doing, right? So high direction, low support, because they're still super excited. The next phase is the D2, right? And in D2, this is a disillusioned learner phase. And disillusioned learner is that they started to finally figure out what it takes to do this, but they still have no idea what they're doing. And this is where we lose most of the people in our organizations on the task or just the organizations altogether, is because people get stuck in a D2 and they just like, you know what? This is what it takes. I don't want to be a part of it. Because they still don't know what to do and they don't know what they're doing. Right? So D2 needs both high support and high direction, as you see up here. All right? High directive and high supportive behavior. That's a D2. D3, they're the cautious but capable contributors. They're starting to figure it out. They're like, okay, I'm starting to get my wheels under me. They know what they're doing a little bit. And this person, they don't need direction because they're starting to figure it out. They just need a nudge and support like you're in the right track. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And that's where they need the low directive but high support, right? And the phase that we all love, and I always forget this phase, it's called the expert phase, essentially. But we love people in the expert phase because they need low direction and low support. Don't we love those types of people? You give them something, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to encourage them. You just give it to them like, go for it. And they're good, right? You're just like, yes, they're good. But what the research that they found showed, if people stay in the D4 stage too long, right? Let me change that. I don't like that one either. Okay. If they stay in the D4 stage too long, what ends up happening is that they can revert back to D2. And that's why stretch assignments and challenging them and giving them new things is super helpful, especially after somebody that may have been doing a role for like 6 months to a year, and they've locked it down. They know what they can do with their eyes closed, that a new assignment, a new challenge is necessary to keep them going. Almost like a car. In order to go faster, we have to go backwards. Right? So this is a practical tool to know and to learn your people. So I know we have like couple minutes, so I wanted just to be able to, I won't be able to go through the AddCar because I want to be able to answer a few questions, but look up AddCar. It's a 5-stage process to help you to work through change. It asks 5 things. What's the awareness or why we need to change? What desire do we need to cultivate in others? What knowledge is needed? What abilities do people need to develop and grow? And last, but what's reinforced? Really powerful change management tool by ProSci that can actually, if you want to see long-lasting change in your organization, Google this process. It's really good. I use it in my own organization, in my own companies, and as I do consulting. It's just that simple to walk through those 5 things to have long-lasting change. So let me press pause there and say, in the last few moments together, are there any questions that you might have? Questions. Specific questions of what you're going through or questions about the information that was shared.
I'm a very strong believer in, being a leader is action, not position.
Yes.
And in my professional experience as a corporate catering manager, I often see a lot of discouragement in my employees and things like that. So I want to talk to the 4th trait of being optimistic.
Yeah.
So I try to motivate my employees and really cultivate this pride and have pride in your work.
Yeah.
But I see that, you mentioned that you see the light, even though there's dark. So how do you see the positive when all you have is negative experiences? You come to work every day, and every day is a bad day. Every day is a bad experience. How do you see through that, and how do you see the optimism, the light at the end of the tunnel? And I think the analogy that I think of when I just, being a leader is that you're in a hole, and then you just have these negative experiences, and the hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and you can't see the light. So how do you
Yeah, that's a big question, isn't it, y'all? I love that question. One of the things that I've often found is one thing that's necessary, and it's going to sound really simple, but it's so powerful, is consistency. Right? It's almost like when people have been in positions that normally aren't seen as great positions, they adopt what I call a foster care mentality. Right? So I have several friends who've been in foster care system. Some of you may have been in it as well. But oftentimes they feel abandoned and that they're just waiting for somebody to give up on them too. And so what they end up doing, we also call it the substitute model. Like we know the substitute's not going to be there. So like when the substitute's there, we're like, yeah, forget you, whatever, I'm going to talk to my friend, right? Is that they don't think that there's going to be consistency. But when we model and show consistency, I mean, I face the same thing at Target. People who I worked under, they just like, oh, you don't really care about us. You're just doing, you're just acting like when you're first getting here that you're really going to care. right? But I was really like, hey, what are your goals outside of work? Like, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? And I was showing in a consistent way, and I didn't do it once. I kept doing it. And I come back. We'd have our next quarterly meeting. Hey, what are your goals? What are the things you want to do? I want to help you get there. They didn't talk about it, but in our conversations, I'd find a book, and I'd give them the book. Hey, what are your goals? And so the aspect, one thing about it is consistency and helping them to see that. The second thing, inconsistency develops what's called learned helpfulness. Now, a lot of the research focuses on learned helplessness, where everybody focuses on the external environment outside of them. And that's what a lot of people, they are conditioned towards what's called a learned helplessness, that nothing is their fault, right? That I'm a person that I can't control anything. What Carol Dweck talks about is the growth versus fixed mindset, and that people who have a fixed mindset don't feel like anything can be changed. But those who develop more of a growth mindset allows them to say, hey, even these bad moments are opportunities for growth, and how do I learn that? Now, that could be a whole nother session on how do you help people develop a growth mindset or develop learned helpfulness. But those are things that I would encourage you to look up, to dive deeper into. But the biggest thing that I've seen overall is consistency. Is consistently being positive. If you like rise and fall based on their attitudes, they're already gone. Is that helpful? Okay, awesome. No problem. One other question. I know we're running a long time, and I want to get y'all some food. One other question. Any other questions? Go ahead. Last question. It's called Your Why Matters Now. I'll put it up here so you can at least see it. Boop-a-doo-boo. No. All right. Yeah, so it's called Your Why Matters Now, How Some Achieve More and Others Don't. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle. But yeah, it's about 7 years of research and 3 years of writing to really help walk through that. And at the closing keynote, for at least those who will be here, I'll put up again the Your Why Matters, the code, because there's 30 practical ways that you can. I'll just put it up now, just so you can have it. There's 30 practical ways to lead others with their why and their now. If you text Why Matters Now, sorry, not that one. Sorry. If you text Why Matters Now to 44222 with no spaces, I give you 30 practical ways to achieve more with your why and your now, but also for leaders, 30 practical ways to lead others with their why and their now. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just my way to give you more than I can give my time. And like the 1968 study is one of those examples, as well as how do you help people fail forward, how do you create a culture of risk-taking, but it's really some small practical things that you can do, like check in with people, not checking up on people. How do you create and develop goals together, which is really powerful for leaders. Many of us, we come with our own set of goals, but if it's only you and people don't feel like they're contributing, they actually give less to the organizations because they don't feel like they're a part of it. But when we come up with goals together and I feel like I'm a part of it, I actually give a little bit more. And so like those are practical things that you'll see in those 30 practical tips that are there's in the book in the back, but you can get those for free just by texting that number. So, other than that, y'all, I'll be up here if you have other questions. Go have lunch, and I'll see y'all at the closing keynote. But thank y'all so much. Have a good lunch. All right, y'all.